I request all the participants to come to the auditorium, and the participants here, I request everyone to be seated. All the participants kindly be seated, and I request all the participants to maintain silence through the entire panel. Now we'll begin the panel 1 in a short while. Great leaders don't set out to be a leader, they set out to make a difference. It is never about the role, but it is more about the goal. To know more about leadership quotes, new age leadership, and other insights about leadership strategies, let us head on to know what our panelists say. Now let's welcome the moderator of the day, Mr. R. Sriram, with a floral bouquet and to the dais. Now I call upon Ms. Preeta Paul to introduce the moderator of the day, Mr. Sriram, to the audience.
Good morning and a very warm welcome once again to everyone present over here. It is my privilege to introduce the moderator of this session, Mr. Sriram R. With over 11 years of work experience in the field of human resource, Mr. Sriram is currently working as a digital and people transformation lead at Cholamandalam Investment and Finance Company Limited, and also the Secretary of the Indian Society of Training and Development. In 2016, Mr. Sriram holds an Indian record for conducting the largest learning session. He was also recognized as the Mentor of the Year in 2018 for his contribution towards nurturing the young talents. Besides this, he was also acknowledged as the Young HR Leader by his outstanding contribution in the field of HRD by Economic Times in the year 2019. Mr. Sriram has been closely associated with leading organizations in mentoring and nurturing the talent and is well known for his expertise in technology-led learning, strategic business partnering, and return on investment-centric intervention. He is the New Age Innovation Practitioner who specializes in leadership coaching and workplace transformation. Thank you so much, sir, for coming here. We are glad to have you today.
Thank you, Preeta. Now let's welcome one of the panelists, Mr. Satish Rajarathnam, with a floral bouquet onto the dais. Now I call upon Yashwant to introduce one of our panelists, Mr. Satish Rajarathnam.
Good morning to one and all present here. I am very much privileged to introduce one of the panelists for the session, Mr. Satish Rajarathnam. Welcome, sir. Mr. Satish Rajarathnam is a Senior Vice President in Mphasis. Sir has continually been at the helm of strategic resourcing, organizational change management, HR business consulting, leadership, talent management, and agile transformation. He is well known to as a TEDx speaker and mentalist who comes over 23 years of experience as a HR professional who has held various HR leadership positions across multiple industries. Mr. Satish Rajarathnam leadership experience spans across organizations such as Cognizant, HCL Technologies, and Siemens. He has also been a recipient of awards such as the Top 100 HR Checkments Awards and HR Excellence Award from the government of Maharashtra and Rajasthan. Outside his experience with HR, Mr. Satish Rajarathnam is also a TEDx speaker, entertainer, illusionist, and has given over 1,200 performances at various occasions. Mr. Satish Rajarathnam is a part of NHRD and has been associated with several industry groups and associations such as SHRM, Agile Leadership, ISAB's Indian and NFNLP, among others, from which he has received certification turning him into qualified practitioner in the field. Thank you so much, sir, for joining this session.
Thank you, Yashwant. Now let's welcome Mr. Nakkeeran Thangiah with a floral bouquet onto the dais. Now I call upon Ms. Divya Dashini to introduce Mr. Nakkeeran Thangiah to the audience.
Good morning, everyone. I feel extremely honored to take the opportunity to introduce one of our panelists, Mr. Nakkeeran Thangiah, for today's session. Mr. Nakkeeran Thangiah is currently the Chief Executive Officer at Avantgarde Management Consultancy Service. Talking about his professional experience, he has over 26 years of work experience in the field of human resource management. He has been accredited in Harrison Assessment. Along with that, he has been certified in Six Sigma Green Belt, PAPI Assessment Trainer, and he has been recognized as a Master Practitioner in NLP. He specializes in coaching mid-level managers on performance, executive decision making, and change management coaching at junior level at various performance issues. Completing 33 years of corporate training and OD experience in MNC consulting and corporate houses like Murugappa and Productivity, Sir holds 2 decades of rich HR consulting experience for IT, manufacturing, BPO, and service industries. He is also an active contributor to professional bodies like ISTD, CII, Coaching Federation of India, World HR Forum, Grow L&D Professional. Thank you, sir, for taking time to join us for the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Divya. Now let's welcome Ms. Lakshmi Umapathy with a floral bouquet and to the dais. Now I call upon Ms. Suganya to introduce Ms. Lakshmi Umapathy to the audience.
Good morning to one and all present here. It's great pleasure to invite our panelist for the session, Mrs. Lakshmi Umapathy. Ma'am is a factory head in Caterpillar India Private Limited. Madam has worked with Caterpillar and Hindustan Motors Limited with 17 years of experience in the field. Ma'am joined Cummins Pitapur plant as a Deputy General Manager handling manufacturing, engineering, production, safety and quality process. Ma'am was also a General Manager in Schneider Electric Private Limited and has handled 1,000 employees. She has also worked in production, manufacturing, HR and financial units. Ma'am has also received Mechanical Engineering degree from Alagappan Chettiar College of Engineering and Technology from Madurai Kamaraj University. Government of India and Ministry of Labour and Employment honoured her service in the field of management development for organization leadership. She has also certified with 6 Sigma belts and she has been trained on lean and operations of excellence. She is one of the panelists in many forum activities on technical and women-centric topics. Madam's skills include operation management, business management and business strategy. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us for today's session. Have a fabulous Friday ahead.
Thank you, Suganya. And now it is time for us to move for the panel discussion. Over to the moderator for the day, Mr. Sriram.
Thanks a lot. Is it audible? Check. Okay. Thanks a lot for the warm welcome and This is going to be the first session of the entire workshop, which is on future-proofing business. And being the first panel, it is imperative that we start off with the most important and the key agenda, which involves future-proofing the fundamentals of business and the HR landscape for the next decade. So we are going to talk about breaking the leadership code, or we call it demystifying the leadership myth, or the best practices that is practiced across multiple industries in terms of building new age leadership, and what are we doing in order to succeed in the next next decade. A small reason why we are talking about future-proofing fundamentals is that there is this beautiful concept called as three-box strategy, propounded by Dr. Vijay Govindarajan. He talks about three boxes that exist simultaneously at the same time. Box 1, box 2, and box 3. And he says box 1 is all about effectively managing the present. And box 2 is selectively forgetting the past. And box 3 is creating a sustainable future. And if you are moving towards a strategic point or innovation or leadership, it is not just box 1 and box 2, which is about effectively managing the present and forgetting the past practices and gearing up for the new event that is going to happen in the next decade. But it is also about what are we doing today to be a leader in the next 5 years or 10 years. So it is very important to future-proof something as simple as leadership. And what are we doing? Are we building a proper pipeline? And what are the best practices across multiple industries that we are following in order to catch up with the new age leaders that are coming up and the millennial population, the so-called VUCA world that has been talked about for more than 50 years now. So what are we doing in those terms? So to talk about that, we have an eminent panel of people here, starting from Mr. Nakkeeran here. So we'll over to you, sir. According to you, what do you think are the major standpoints or best practices that are practiced across multiple industries, and how are organizations viewing leadership, and what are they planning?
Good morning, all. Thank you for the opportunity. Two reasons I'm happy to be here. Number one, representing ISTD. Okay, so we always love to be brand ambassadors in all the occasions. Number two, this annual conference, Pegasus, it resonates with me because when I was a graduate student, I did it from American College, Madurai. When I was a literature student, our annual literary festival used to be called Pegasus. So today it struck a chord to me, so I'm very emotional. And there are a few things which I'm going to talk here today. There is something which is interesting, there are some things which are radical. Things which are interesting might not be radical, and things which are radical might not be interesting. Okay, with respect to the leadership practices. To set the context, Sriram, you talked of future proofing. All of us would have seen movies, right? We talk of movies like Bulletproof Monk. So are we trying to protect ourselves from future? What is that insurance cover as future leaders are we going to? So that set my ball rolling. Being a literature student, I can't help it. I'm recollected of this famous novel by Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities. I think most of you would have read that. Can you recall the opening paragraph? It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Right? It was an age of belief, it was an epoch of incredulity. It was the spring of hope, and it was a winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. That is precisely the situation which all of us are in here, whether it is pandemic or even otherwise. Sriram had mentioned some time back, the program or the conference theme itself is quite ambiguous, deliberately, future-proofing fundamentals. So all of us are living in the same world. So for me that was quite interesting, and I just wanted to, so my narrative is going to be primarily what is happening in terms of the leadership competencies globally, and India is no different, because today we are part of the global, whatever industry we represent, whether it's manufacturing, service, or IT, consulting, whatever. So we got to look at it in that way. First and foremost, my simple definition of leadership, which stayed with me quite for 3 decades. We have so many books on leadership literature. A leader is one who knows the way, who shows the way, and who goes the way. So for me, that sums up the entire essence of leadership across ages. So when he says knows the way, it's basically being knowledgeable, and one who must be able to direct shows the way, and one who goes the way should be a role model. Okay, so irrespective of the sector with which we operate, I think if these three basic fundamentals which we are talking about, that takes care of it. So that's in a precise form what I'm going to say. There are a couple of things which I wanted to address. So Dr. Karthikeyan, my friend for more than 2 decades, we are traveling together today, and he did mention in his keynote address on the PhD experience. Okay, so it is basically the process, because being a process specialist, the results are secondary to us. What is the process? There are a lot of unlearning which happens in the entire process. So that really struck me. As far as leadership is concerned, I'm reminded of a proverb. They say experience is a comb which you get when you become bald. So what do I do with it? Most of us as leaders are that. We have a lot of experiments, and today is the age of experimentation which you got to do. So the results are immaterial, but at least you have that satisfaction of having tried out. So for me, first if you go to look at a leader, whether you are going to be in a corporate sector or whether you are going to be in the society, primarily you got to define your purpose. Okay, I'm not using a very heavy word here. Purpose is, again, purpose of existence, it could be anything. Today people are talking of ikigai. What is my passion? All of us get into this rat race immediately after our graduation, and we know what are the top done. There are a lot of surveys published in this regard, so let us gravitate towards that. We get into a job, we get sucked into it, then we start comparing notes with our own batchmates. Hey, this guy is smoother, so I also need to move. So there is always this peer pressure acting even after entering into this corporate jungle. Then after 15, 20 years, senility comes in, and then we start realizing, hey, this is not what I aim for. I think I should be doing different. The self-actualization need starts taking a higher priority. But by that time it's too late, because we are all caught up, mid-age crisis comes in. And irrespective of the level, we start looking at how do we really settle down. So it's a kind of catch-22 situation. It's a double bind. I feel like doing something on my own, give back to the society, but at the same time there are a lot of commitments to the family. It can be in the form of home loan EMIs or vehicle EMIs, whatever. The reason why I'm highlighting this predicament is there are leaders at all levels. I strongly believe that leadership exists at all levels. So even there are programs run for workmen. I know Lakshmi will agree with me. Like even a company where they spend a lot on blue collar training, leadership training happens even at that level. They want to nurture leaders. Tomorrow they could be union office bearers. So we want that leadership quality. We strongly believe there is a quality in each one of them. So we have to nurture it and develop. Schools today are talking about equipping leadership camps or labs. So how do we really ignite that spark? Now coming back to the practices, first and foremost, I would like, as a leader, I need to have self-conviction. So I'm talking on this self-domain. There's no point in others telling me, hey, you can make a real great leader. You are a good platform speaker. So the self-domain is something which all leaders need to look into. Korn Ferry has published 34 leadership competencies. These are global leadership competencies. Doesn't mean that it's not applicable to India. By and large, most of the Indian companies have started adopting it. And this literally covers every gamut of leadership discipline. Okay? Doctor mentioned about this word agility. Today, leaders ought to be ambidextrous. They need to manage both. They need to manage ambiguity, but there are legacy organizations like Murugappa Group where I worked, where we need to preserve the systems. So box 3 thinking, which was referred by Sriram, letting go of the past will be a challenge to most of the legacy organizations. So we at leadership positions, when I say we, the corporate folks, we have this balancing act. Like they say, walking on the razor's edge. I need to let in fresh thought. Young blood comes in, they're bringing a lot of ideas. So how do I give them space to grow without disturbing the institution? Because there are some age-old practices also which have been set as a foundation. So without this, this can't happen. Okay. So there was this anecdote where a CEO, new CEO joins the organization, and as he's about to onboard, take over from his predecessor, he's just checking, hey, how is this cool, no, this job? Yeah, it's cool, but if you have any challenges, simple, I'll teach you a mantra. You just follow that, you'll be successful. So the outgoing CEO hands 3 slips of paper to the incoming CEO. He says, whenever you face a crisis, whenever you face a challenge, you just refer them in the respective orders. Slips are numbered 1, 2, 3. And says bye-bye. So the new CEO joins, he slowly understands the organization, he has his induction, understands the business operations, challenges, he talks to stakeholders, all that. After 3 months, he's finding there's nothing much happening. Things are static. Obviously, he's answerable to the board. So he says, he reminds what the outgoing CEO had told him. So with a lot of fear, trepidation, he picks up the first slip. It says, start blaming things on the predecessor. Why things are not improving. So thereafter, subsequently, in all the town hall meetings, he starts blaming the predecessor. You know why our company is not performing? Because it was all these wrong decisions taken by my predecessor. 6 months gone, still no improvement. Again, he's accountable. Slip number 2. So it says, start throwing promises. So it says, now we are now entered, we have had a MOU, this is the new partnership venture, this is what is going to happen. We have brought about a lot of changes in the factory layout, marketing, blah, blah, blah. Another 6. And 2 decades back, 3 decades back, there are a lot of stability everywhere. So any leadership intervention which was introduced in the organization, there was a time to stabilize. There is a maturity cycle, and slowly we got to see results. But today, there is impatience. On one hand, I'm answerable to the stakeholders. On the other hand, internal. So there are multiple stakeholders, so you can see the kind of pressure which is acting. Today, everybody is talking of agile. Okay, either I'm agile, coach, Scrum certified, whatever. On one hand, I have to be very agile to serve my customers. On the other hand, there is also a challenge for me to look at the continuity, business continuity operations. Pandemic was a surprise. Most of the leaders, we are all caught up, what next to do. It was something new. There was no rule book available. There was no SOP available. We had to start from scratch everything and create. Okay, so the first leadership code which I look at very strongly is self-resilience, where the leader has to be aware of himself. Okay, most of the time the leader, if he is not having his own self-awareness, what he can do, what are his limitations, then it becomes a challenge. It's like a mad bull in a china shop, not knowing. He can mess up around the organization. Rightly pointed out by Dr. Karthikeyan, leaders make all the difference to the organizations. We heard of this company GE, right? We heard of leaders like Jack Welch. This was followed by Immelt. We know what happened, okay? Jack Welch was known as Neutron Jack. Overnight, 2 lakh employees sacked. Okay, from a business point of view, it was a requirement of the organization. But from a humanitarian point of view, it was a totally different thing. So how does the leader manage this balancing? I'm coming back to the ambiguity or the conference theme here. Today, I have to deal with artificial intelligence. I have to deal with machine learning. I'm looking at automation. But at the same time, at least in the Indian context, we are also looking at how do we protect jobs. There are people who are there in the organization for decades. Are we rewarding loyalty? Loyalty is one of the core values of the organization. So there is a mediocre performer who has been in the system, but he has been right from the day the foundation stone of the factory was laid out. How can I take a harsh action? So a leadership dilemma crisis starts from there. How do I really do that balancing act? The razor's edge, as I was talking about. Okay. So now loyalty as a question. The current millennials are here. When I talk to them, I say, okay, so what are your plans? How long? What plans are you talking about? No, there's something called career planning. Would you like to know where you're going to land? What exactly? Gone are the days of conducting career workshop. People are very vibrant. VUCA atmosphere, now called as a tuna atmosphere. Okay, more turbulent or whatever. So it's so dynamic. Let me take the example of this one conference. Okay, so Sriram was person, a go-to person. I think he would have got at least 24 calls in the last 2 days from me. Okay, because things are so dynamic. So am I in or out? This is the kind of thing I was having. So, but that is the order of the day. Okay, I'm just mentioning it here because today everything is changing. Just-in-time concept, which is applicable only to factories, is happening to the leaders also. I can reverse my decisions, what I told half an hour back. So what? Now the situation demands this. So there is a justification for that also. So this loyalty as a concept, I want to spend some time here because this has a lot of connection to the leadership code we are talking about. Loyalty is a nice thing, written in scriptures, books everywhere. Today when I interview a candidate, I expecting loyalty. And we say, would you agree to work for our organization? I would like to retire with the organization. This is what the candidate also says. And the interviewer also believes that. You think anymore that's going to be realistic? No. Okay. So let's be very clear on it. Loyalty, there are two types of loyalty, cat loyalty and dog loyalty. All of you have pets at home? No? Okay, so you are the pet. Okay. If you observe carefully, the dogs are loyal more to the owners. And cats are loyal more to the house. So tomorrow, the owner leaves the house, the dog also tends to leave along with the owner. So migratory. Okay. It's a typical migrant behavior. But the cat stays put in the house waiting for the new owner or the occupier of the house. Both are loyalty. Today employees join an organization. Why did you join this organization? Maybe at the time of interview he might say, okay, this is a dream job I was looking for, passion, this is a Fortune 500 company, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately they get tied up to one particular leader whose style they start really loving. And when the leader quits the organization, there will be a big gang going along with him. That's dog loyalty. So wherever the leader goes, he has his own hand-picked people, chosen loyalty, nothing wrong in that. Likewise, there are people who continue the organization. Men may come, men may go, but I stick on forever because I like the systems in this organization. So the second aspect which I would like to state in the leadership is he has to cultivate a sense of employee loyalty towards the organization purpose, not for himself. So this is a conscious step where, how does he do it? A leader should always give scope or space for the employee to front end. Like Dr. Abdul Kalam says, always you as a leader, whenever something goes wrong, you take the blame. I believe he followed this practice from his boss. So whenever there is some success, give it to the subordinate. So a leader, if he can give that psychological space, what they call it a psychological safety now, you have to provide that safety net. Okay, Google as a company does it very fantastically. Okay, so the employee can pursue any goals which is not relevant to his domain. 20% of his time he can spend on that. Okay, not related, it can be something to do with passion, nothing to do with the company's bottom line. Okay, he's consciously given the space where he can do. But rest 80%, yes, stick to your KRS or goals which are being achieved. So this is something which all of us have to take note of it. How do we really manage that space? Because today millennials are really very aspirational. I would like to have a promotion or elevation every year, if not twice a year. Okay, which can be a shocker to the Gen X or Gen Y. Okay, so that is the kind of rate of thing happening here. We got to have that aspiration. So third aspect which I want to talk about the leadership code is how are you going to build a talent pool in your organization? I would like to second here what Dr. Karthikeyan said. Today the major challenge facing CEOs of organizations across the world is building a talent pipeline, leadership pipeline. Business challenges are secondary. How do I ensure that kind of talent? The business grows so fast, so how do I fast track a growth? We have most of the leaders as bonsai plants. You heard of bonsai plants, right? So most of the time I have a lot of viewpoints. I want to say, I get trimmed. So we have big grown trees in all those pots. So most of the leaders get shrunk there because they didn't get, I had an idea, but the idea didn't get its space or time. So leaders ought to give that space. Okay, so I'm supposed to talk about some practices also, so let me shift gears now. So I'll be talking about experience, all the three major setups where I had worked. I used to work for this company called Deloitte Consulting, okay, might have heard of it, and Fortune 500 companies were our clients. Here we used to identify the leadership potential, the typical standard 9-box grid framework, okay, where we try to map the employees into the potential and the performance grid. There used to be a marquee program for leadership. I said leadership at all levels. So when a person moves from a particular role, okay, so today I'm as an individual contributor, I have joined in here as an associate or a senior associate. So I move on to the next level. So the transition doesn't happen just by performance alone. There is a specific milestone program, as we call it, which is mandatory for the individual employee to complete. So we start nurturing or do the seeding at that stage itself. So there are different programs for each level of growth, the person has to go through this program. When you say program, it is not just classroom training, it is a blended learning wherein they'll have to have certain statutory programs, we have certain e-learnings. More interestingly, we have developmental experiences. The developmental experiences are basically on the job where you are supposed to learn on the job. You are thrown in the swimming pool. You might not have a life jacket. Okay, so no guidance. You got to learn on your own. So the guidance would be like a Zen priest. You go and ask a Zen priest what is 2 plus 2, he will never say 4. He'll say, son, it's not 3. Then you have to tell him, sir, then is it 5, sir? So you have to keep on giving some response. Finally, he will make you understand 2 plus 2 is 4, but directly he won't say that 2 plus 2 is 4. So why this indirect way of deductive learning? That is their style. So most of the time in organizations today, there is no spoon feeding which is done. So this developmental experience, there is a formula for it. It's called 2 by 2 by 2. What is 2 by 2 by 2? So if I have to aspire to my next level of growth, position, I should have spent minimum 2 years. Okay, the first aspect is time. In 2 different portfolios not connected to my specialization. If I'm a HR guy, then I should have had a stint in marketing, finance, production, whatnot. I think Caterpillar does a fantastic job on that. Ma'am, sorry, I'm stealing some of your points. Okay. And the last 2 is the geographical location. You can be in a plant, you can be in a corporate office, you can be in an R&D center. Okay, Hindustan Lever does a fantastic job on that. Okay, so that well groomed out approach, this 2 by 2 by 2, makes you consciously go up the ladder. Their idea is to create future entrepreneurs. Okay, talking about Murugappa Group, we had this similar experience. So I used to work for this company called Tube Investments. Some of your seniors have done the project work in my learning center, and you used to be there. So our learning center is equipped to cater to the managerial population, which is 1,000 plus. We had a similar experiment done there also. So what we did is we identified the high potentials. There is a standard framework. There's a process where the screening is done. So people look at, it's the most coveted job or getting into the being part of the program. So just like people randomly don't get assigned into the program. It's literally a kind of competition which happens. So there's a recommendation at different levels. There is an assessment which is being done. Then finally people get into that and they are tracked for a period of minimum 18 months. Based on the assessment center, they also have an individual development plan, IDP as they call it. Okay, and this IDP will focus on 1 or 2 competencies where this individual is found falling short of in terms of proficiency of meeting the next level job. So I am assessed today for the proficiency level required for a job which I am going to move in 2 or 3 years from now. Got it? So that is future proofing for us. And whichever area I am lagging, that is the focus for the next 18 months. Wherein I will have a lot of these experiences, I will have assignments, programs, white paper presentations, whatnot. So the next important aspect of this leadership development program, we are also assigned coaches or mentors as you call it. Okay. So again here there is a mix of internal external. Suppose it's a very niche area wherein we don't have internal expertise, external coaches are also welcome. So they do a lot of hand holding in the journey. So this is packed in such a way that the tracking happens every quarter. We know how the needle has moved in the compass. Is this guy really making some progress? If there is not much progress, alert is given. Any further hand holding is required. So all this, so they are the real special children. Okay, the focus is on them. So in 2 years time, I have a talent pipeline of developed leaders who can occupy the role. So that way succession planning happens at all levels. So this becomes aspirational and we look at how people move on. The next leadership code which I would like to look into today, being Madras School of Social Work, obviously we are all particular of this CSR, okay. Before it was mandated, companies like Murugappa, we had it as part of our own well-being and we wanted to do it. Now it has been mandated. You have to do something on CSR. A leader need to be very much socially responsible also. Where here, as I said earlier, participating in all those community welfare and community development objects. Okay, gone are the days. Today we don't require a Greta Thunberg to talk about environment. I think here our guys are doing a fantastic job. There are a lot of unsung heroes. Okay, clearing all the marshland, making our rivers more less polluted. So all that is happening. So leaders need to take that While in Deloitte, we had this program where annually one day, the entire organization does this across the board, right from our managing director till the junior associate who has joined. We spread out. There used to be different streams of people who used to participate in the company, and each group used to do that. There are people who used to go to prisons, like doctor said, we used to go and see those patients, cancer patients. There are people who used to go to color washing the walls, polluted, clearing the weed, shrub. Okay, some people go to the colleges. Okay, and people who are on the deathbed, we go and visit them. So different streams. Imagine population of around 12,000 to 15,000 employees getting into different streams happening in locations across the world, globally. Okay, and the first Friday of June every month is demarcated, and continuously they have been into the Limca Book of Records. Okay, is that one day going to make a difference? No, the beauty is, post that is also, it's continuing as a year-long activity. Why should we make them? Is it just for brand building? Of course, there is going to be a brand image built, but also we are trying to inject something into that employee. Hey, tomorrow as a leader, you also need to be concerned about the society. You are also part of it. There is a spirit of giving back to the society being injected. So a leader ought to be aware of this community service which he has to do. So wherein it becomes instilled, it becomes a way of life. So having said this, we also need to look at leadership in a different angle here. Should the leader always front end? Okay, there are some 10 qualities which I need to really excel as a leader. Should I have all the qualities? Or what are the top 2 priority qualities which I look into? Again, this is quite a dicey one, because if you have read a book called Range, there is a book, it advocates generalization. Gone are the days of specialization. So I said this 2 by 2 by 2, that talks of that generalization. You get an exposure of everything, then finally you can stick on to your specialization or domain as a leader. Okay, I'm a finance expert, let me stick on to finance. Let me try to do something. But I must be at least in a position to appreciate the other functions, because today this collaboration is becoming another important aspect in a leadership. We always talk a different way. We say cross-functional teams, okay, and small groups without leaders operating, self-directed teams. Okay, in some of the manufacturing industries they have, there's no supervisor concept at all. Okay, so leaders are getting eliminated in that sense, if you look at it as an elimination. But actually the purpose is, each one of you is a leader. You got to take responsibility for yourself, and you got to take decisions. Decision making is a very, very challenging aspect most of the time. So again, here our personality theory will come into play. Are you a thinker or a feeler, if I have to go by the MBTI school of thought? Okay, so decision making today as a leaders, there are times where you might not make the right decisions. Okay, in retrospect, like doctor was mentioning about the PhD, actually I wanted to do it this way, but see, this is what happened. I mean, all of us have that feeling, sense of incompletion. As a leader also, at times we also have that regrets. Probably I should have acted in a different fashion, but at that point of time, with that wisdom, whatever you have, probably that made a lot of sense, right? So a leader, please remember, every decisions are packed with a risk element. Okay, you make certain assumptions. In today's VUCA atmosphere, data is not available. We might have a lot of big data. We have all the analytics, but still I can take the wrong decision. Okay, so a data built decisions is not necessarily foolproof. Yeah, it's available always, but again, it's giving a kind of psychosomatic comfort. Okay, there are two, if I have to tell a small anecdote, there are two students traveling in a bike. One guy driving the bike, the other guy being the pillion rider. They got to cross a forest and then reach the destination. And as they were going in the forest, suddenly it's evening time, dusk, where it's about to set. The guy driving the bike suddenly gets a severe migraine. He says, "Hey boss, I can't drive anymore. Why don't you drive?" He says, "Hey, come on, yeah. How do I know how to ride a bike? Then let's rest here and go after some time." He says, "It's not safe, but my headache is unbearable." So the guy who was in the beginning says, "Okay boss, I'll give you a pill. You just pop it in your mouth, but please don't swallow it. Probably your headache will get subsided, then we can reach our destination." He says, "Sure, why not, let me try it." So he says, "Close your eyes, open your mouth." He pops something with it, keep it under your tongue. After 5 minutes, now open your eyes. How do you feel? Comfortable? Great. Take the bike. There is the destination. Then he says, "Now spit what is in your mouth." It was found to be the shirt button. So our leaders, at times we require all this kind of crutches, whether it is data driven information or whatever, just to give me a comfort that I'm taking the right decision. But ultimately there's a chemistry. Int is the word which was used. Okay. So this intuitiveness in future we got to train. Critical thinking is another critical need of the hour. I would recommend all academic institutions to include that in your curriculum. Critical thinking is something which has to be nurtured right from the start. I'll be happy even it is coming to schools. Logic. Today in boardroom debates, battles are fought. Hey, I am data driven, I talk on this. No. So we need to give this kind of input so that in future proofing leaders, we'll have those leaders who are equipped with critical thinking. At the same time, they're also balancing empathy in how to deal with their employees. They're trying to bring technology and they're trying to take care of the overall wellness. So these are some catch-22 situations which you have to manage. Managing ambiguity is the core competence, if I were to put it in a nutshell. So this is the kind of senior folding. I hope I am not exceeded time. I have time. Okay, right. So there are a lot many things which we can talk about, but just to conclude, what I would like to state is practices are there, okay, and which also keep changing. If I have to give a kind of template on kind of best practice, if you look at it, first, as a philosophy, the company ought to believe there are leaders at all levels. It need not necessarily be somebody who is born with a silver spoon. He has to have the trait. It's not a trait theory. Or somebody who has come from a blessed B school. No. Gone are the days. Today we have seen in any field, whether it is sports or whatever. A couple of days back we see there is a daughter of an auto rickshaw driver getting a Miss Femina title, right? So means India. Okay, so these are kind of things happening. Chartered accountant, topper, again was a daughter of an auto rickshaw, again I think Mumbai. Okay, so these kind of things. So talent is always available. Cricket field, Natarajan. So this talent is always available. As corporates, if we can have an eye for details, if we can spot that talent with the first great step, without any other bias. See, this unconscious biases is something which really play havoc in our day-to-day thing. Today that has become a subject by itself. Doctor would be a better person to speak about it, but I just wanted to mention it here. Whether you like it or not, we have been brought up with it. That's the script which we get from our parents. So every day I start looking others through that filter only. So how do I consciously remove that filter and I deal with a day-to-day scenario? So that will be the challenge for the leaders. So the second step would be, can you spot talent? Can you remove your unconscious biases? And the earlier you nurture your next level, it is better. See, earlier, if you have to get promoted, you have to stay put in the organization 15 years, 20 years. I'm talking of the pre-liberalization period. Then the private sector period came, they said merit-oriented, people are getting promoted. Even then people are not happy. No, he's the blue-eyed of the boss, so he's getting promoted faster. Then they brought a via media formula, 50% weightage to merit and 50% weightage to service. Still not happy. You know what is the thumb rule for promotion? You got to develop minimum 2 of your immediate subordinates to take up your role. Unless and otherwise you do that, you can't aspire for a next level. So subordinate development, that's the Damocles sword hanging. I know I got to do it. Today it is mandated in appraisal systems. Okay, so that is one of the KRA. If I don't develop my team member or my probable successor, then I don't aspire or I don't deserve to be growing. So in your own interest, I'm here trying to bring a vested interest. So you are selfish. You got to be selfish in doing a subordinate development. Then only you can grow in the organization. So that will be the fourth aspect which I would like to talk about. Last but not the least, see, there are certain things which are already legacy in the systems, especially of organizations which have been for a long time. Whether it is an Indian company or a multinational company, okay. So how do you really do the tinkering? On one hand, while you can gloat about the stability part of it, but that can also be a limitation factor. So today when I come across professionals, when I meet in different forums, I say, how are you? So what is your background? Like, I have 30 years of experience in this. When someone says that they have 30 years or 40 years, it's not actually 30 years of experience, it's 30 times the first year experience. All your learning happens in that first 1 year. So do all those experiments where you can fail fast. Design thinking talks about that. So today a leader has to embrace this concept of design thinking, create that kind of future, understand what your people wants. In coaching, we call it as a first principle. Whenever there is a reluctant coachee, because the organization has assigned a coach to this manager, and the manager doesn't want to get coached, because who will admit that there is something in them which needs to be developed. So he'll say, why should I get a 360-degree feedback from my subordinate? What if he's biased against me? So the first question we ask them, who will be the deciding factor to claim that your company's products are first-class quality? Obviously my customers. If that be the case, you as a leader, who has to certify you? People working under you. So 360-degree feedback, whether it's a perception or reality, you got to accept that. So that is applicable to a leader also. So that's the last one which I wanted to mention. And thank you very much for the opportunity, Sriram.
Thanks a lot, sir. That was a very insightful and covered a huge spectrum of leadership, especially. And the last thing that you said hit the nail on the coffin. I remember watching Monte Singh Panesar playing a match, and then the commentator saying, "I wonder whether this is Monte Singh Panesar playing the 30th game or the first game 30th time." Right, because he was supposed to be the touted spinner and going to bring a great difference in the England's team. But unfortunately, he became very predictable. He kept doing the same thing again and again. And then it's very imperative that we understand that working hard is not about doing the same thing again and again. Because the moment you start doing the same thing again and again, you keep seeing the same things again and again. You travel through the known, but unfortunately what you want to achieve is in the unknown. It is in the uncharted waters. So you just can't dwell in the present. That is why we have to selectively forget the past and move on to the next thing. And good thing that the principals have also talked about is the gig economy. Where does the root or the genesis of big gig economy come from? I believe that this is my core competence, right? And I excel in this and I like doing this. And if someone wants to employ me for this trait of mine alone, then my services are available. And because of that, it's passion related. I build it and then I nurture it. And then it is because it is self-selected, it is intuitively selected by us. Like he said a very beautiful example where the Zen principle, where when someone asks what is 2 plus 2, I would say it is not 3. Like, and the students who coordinated with me would relate to this. Even in the coffee room discussions that we had for the very brainstorming of this thing, I just was eliminating ideas. I was not even bringing up ideas. The entire idea, the crux, the entire event is not something that I conjured or ISTD conjured or MSSW faculty conjured. It was completely student driven. All their ideas were just cohesively consolidated, and this is what resulted in this event. So that is how we need. That is we need people, leaders who give people the space, and then give them the credit. Beautifully put. And then that is what this event also stands for, I believe, and that's a great start for the session, sir. And talking about that, it is also imperative that we understand. I can see right here that the major set of people who are attending here are females, right? Women. And that is really great because we hardly find this kind of participation in anywhere else. And especially from setup like manufacturing setup, where it is highly male dominated, it is very difficult for women to flourish and get into the C-suite, right? So we have Lakshmi with us, and none other than her can speak about what it is that you can do as a woman, and how leadership in women, and how should we promote it, and what are the best practices that multiple domains follow, and what is her take on it?
Thank you. Am I audible? Yeah, thank you, Sriram. And always, as Nakkeeran said, the name itself is, so as Nakkeeran is going to, take notes and then pinpoint, say, hey, you are doing wrong. So forgive me, I'm not an expertise, I'm not a public speaker, I'm basically a mechanical graduate, and maybe as the keynote given by Mr. Karthikeyan, my session is going to be a very interactive, and I want participation from you all. As Sriram said, I'm happy to see more women here, and I want, maybe by women lead anything. Everything is possible, it's possible. With that note, I want you all to participate, and I hope I'm not going to bore you. As Mr. Karthikeyan has said, could you please summarize what are the key takeaways? What all things he mentioned, something like at least few sentences, a few words. What is that? As he said, like, okay, at the end of session, you say, maybe you can, appreciate your management, your principal, or the faculty. It's wonderful. Awesome. But I wanted to hear from you all, what is that from the morning, what Mr. Karthikeyan has said? At least few words.
Ma'am, that will be really great to have an interactive session, but you can just give a little bit of
just
insight.
To start, are they actively listening?
Okay.
Is someone wanted to volunteer? Thank you. Good, good. Any other volunteer? I wanted to have diverse.
Hello, good morning to all. Vaishnavi here. So one of the key points which I really liked was the application of design thinking in the concept of leadership, because that is though the idea of innovative thinking is throughout there it can be done, but I myself am very appreciative of the concept of design thinking leadership code. So that is something which really caught my eye. So I would really like you to explain later on, not right in the Q&A session, how design thinking can be applied in the leadership code and how we can take it forward as students is something which was key.
Thanks Vaishnavi. Okay, that. So again, maybe as I'm basically a mechanical engineer graduate, but I wanted to touch upon like, okay, how women can pursue in their career as a leader. So leader is like, you can define, like there are, you can Google it and then read lot of books. But what is very important is you need to aware what is that you wanted to achieve in your career. That is very key. To set your goal. What is that you want to do? It could be a personal goal. Somebody will say that, as you are all MSW. So the qualification itself is social work. So as in this era, everybody, as Mr. Nakkeeran has touched upon, the CSR activity. Every company now, one day or other, like, okay, they made this a mandatory, you all have to do something to the society. So I'm happy that you are all going to contribute and then bring up the better world, India. So with that, I started as a first female production engineer in Hindustan Motors. So why I'm saying this is, you need to have, the courage and boldness. And any industry for that matter, apart from leaving alone the education sector or the hospitality or the, I can say in the banking sector, we can literally hardly count a single digit, the representation by female. Why it is so? When we see the girls are the toppers, be it in the school or college, and we can see a good representation in the start of the career, anywhere for that matter. And every company now focus on, we wanted to have improved diversity, we wanted to hire, we wanted to give better chance. There are many programs also, but in spite of all, why we are not able to achieve, see many women in leadership. It's all, up to us to decide. Do you really wanted to, aspire something in your career? And you need to have some sacrifice. It is not easy that like, okay, I can, compete and then win. Just for fun, I'm just saying. Even what is that you have noticed in this, like, don't take it in the other way, just for the fun. A woman has been called the last. Why? Why? We all feel that, women are more, they are good in doing house chores. Like that is maybe the past. But in these days, women are excelling in any career for that matter. So you need to be proud, be a part of woman. So, and with that, the second thing is, I touched upon the courage and boldness. Next is your attitude, the learning attitude. As Mr. Karthikeyan said, learning is a continuous journey. So every day, it is not, I'm not going to say that, okay, this is the best practice you should follow. But every day is a learning. And for learning, you should be very active. That's the reason I asked, some questions to make you, participate. So, and the planning part, that is very key. Planned activity is 100%. If you plan your, be it a project or your career, or you need to spend more time on planning, and the execution you should spend less time. What I mean is, what is that I wanted to do in next 1 week. And when I say planning, I don't want you to plan for the next 10 years. Everybody in our interview, they'll ask, what do you want to become in the future? You may say like, I want to become a MD, I wanted to start my own enterprise, or I wanted to, take up my family business. But after 10 years, if you just say what has been you told in the interview and what you are there, I could say maybe a minority could be what they said. I mean, touch wood, I've challenged my own batchmates when I've taken mechanical engineering. A guy he's in US. Of course, he's pursuing his career in IT. He challenged me. I still remember it was in the lab session when we were, doing a foundry. He was helping me. Of course, I got, some boils when I was doing all this hammering and then the mud, making my foundry molding. So he was saying, see, now I'm helping you. I said like, yeah, I'm not prepared enough. But what I learned is next time when I come for the foundry, I should, maybe be healthy and make sure that I'm not seeking your help. Why I'm saying, then he said, and every, lab he used to, after we complete our practice session, when we sit and then, do our record work, see, at the end of 4 years, you get married and you're going to, look after family. I said like, maybe I'll bet you, I will be pursuing my career in hardcore manufacturing. And still, till date, I'm able to maintain it. Believe me, I have not taken any break during my career other than my maternity leave of 3 months. And now, like, okay, the governments have given maternity leave of extending 6 months, and even we in corporate, we encourage the, work from home. Those are things which I never enjoyed, or I don't wanted to also. Even in the pandemic, it's hardly, I could say, 2 weeks time, wherein we have been asked to work from home till we get a license to, the approval from governments to, start the plant. But of course, as Mr. Nakkeeran also, every agility that we have one of the, this is the mantra in our facility, we say agility and flexibility. So agility is what, how do you flex and then how you are agile. So every day the change management, this is something like, okay, today, as Nakkeeran also said, like, okay, this is not like, yeah, what I'm going to learn from today. The next minute, it's going to be volatile. It is not going to be no more, the rule book. So you need to be equipped to, make yourself flexible and adaptive for the change management. And the next is reading books. Sriram was mentioning about the 3 books. Sriram, you mentioned, right? 3 books. Yeah, there are many books to, read. And reading is something I strongly encourage. At least spend 10% of your valuable time in reading something. I could say, when I say 10%, at least an hour a day on reading some good management books on the leadership. There are many books. And if you ask me, like, okay, what I have, maybe The Habit of Winning. It's a very good book by Satish Rajarathnam, and it is very simple and easy to follow. And there are many books I can say. And other thing is, as I was in production, then I was in logistics, then I was in project management, then I was in supply chain, and I was in engineering coordinator. It's all like 2 by 2 by 2. So, say in as long as you are open and you are ready to take the challenging role, the management is ready to give whatever the role you wanted to pursue. And you may ask, say you are an engineer and you are from a mechanical background, what's in it for me? And I'll tell you, in my own peer group, I don't want to mention the company, but there was a HR person who has been given as a planted role to lead a plant. It was amazing. He is able to deliver the key results as the engineers used to do. It's all the myth or the mindset, like only the particular profession deliver the best quality. It is not so. It's all how do you manage your people, and how you are equipped with the latest technology or what's happening around you. You should know what's happening around you and be a change agent, ready to change. So I could say everything is possible. So, and he was heading the plant as a HR, not for a short term. He could be successfully able to lead a complete plant for 3 years. and the growth is not less than 20%, what he has, proved consistently for the 3 years. So as a HR person, you can lead a plant also. I've seen a live examples, and the next comes, especially on the gender parity, even countries like the pay gap. When we say pay gap, like, okay, I'm in a particular position, I'm a plant head, factory manager. So I'm not saying like I'm less paid, but if we compare, the data says the pay what a female get versus the male gets for the same position. In UK also, it is 22.5% less than a men is getting. So I used to challenge. So you be vocal. I used to ask if I am not, rated high, well, okay, maybe I could have not performed this year, but tell me what are the areas I need to improve so that next year at least I'll see that I'm meeting those competency or the key deliverables. So you should be vocal and you should be courageous in asking. The olden days have gone, always boss is right. And I never say yes as we want, bosses are always right, but you should be also asking why I have not been given that role or why I have not been rated high. So it's all up to you, and everything begins with you. And it is not somebody like, okay, who's going to handhold you, and there is no, maybe a course as curriculum as Nakkeeran sir has mentioned. Those days have gone. We used to have a career plan, and then like, okay, we ask my teammates or the teams to come and then say like, what is it you wanted to do? Tell me the gap, and then we keep working. And now it's on the ball is on your court. You should say like, okay, these are the areas I wanted to grow, and ask what is that you are lagging, and then get the 360-degree feedback. That is very, very vital. It's not only your peer, your manager, your down the level people, and then your own peer group, and get the feedback. Feedback is something which is an excellent, a mechanism to assess and understand what is your gap, and you need to have maybe the reflection. That's what I have learned throughout my 26 years of journey in my career. So you need to reflect. At the end of the day, what is that today I have learned? What is that I need to improve? So you need to have your own planning tool. It could be a simple diary wherein you note down like, okay, this is what I've learned today, or you can do with the next IT man is going to say about the technology. How do the technology well? Now like, okay, Alexa, there are many forums to remind you and then keep you maybe plan your activities. And the other thing, as Mr. Nakkeeran touched upon, in the board, we don't see many women in board. The first woman in board is Mary Christine Lombard for the TNT Express. Excuse me, I'll just take some. So after she was in the board, the chief executive said, I could able to see a clear difference in the board, maybe the perception or the thinking. He has shared, after the women being the part of the board, I could see a better lateral thinkers. The women are the better lateral thinkers, and they are more sensitive to the personal issues. People, when we say personal issues, women are more sensitive to the people issues. They take it as as if it has happened something to their own family members. What if something happened to my own child? I'll give maybe a higher priority than the other team members. So the women are taking it as a very sensitive. And the next is women are more idealistic. And the last one, what he touched is, they bring calmness and objectivity. When we say subject versus object, in a manufacturing we say, when a customer expects something or product, we say the requirements are more of very, vague. That's what we say, subjectivity. Maybe I can say, yes, this product is looking very nice, so we can accept. But for maybe for a Sriram or for a other person, Satish, he may say, no, this is not looking good, because it's very subjective. But when you bring an objective, it's all data driven. It's all based on the fact. That's why the IoT helps, be it, when we say SPC in a statistical process, we talk about, what is the process capability. So, but this is what the customer is really. So now the women are more, focused towards, bringing in more objective oriented. So when I say objective, even your goal should be very objective. What is that you wanted to achieve? So set your goal and then pursue towards a goal with a clear plan. Maybe I have another 5 more or a minute. Yeah. Okay. So just to say other key points is you need to have your role model. Be it could be your own mother or it could be your maid. It doesn't mean that your role models to be only Abdul Kalam, or it could be a great leader like Ratan Tata. Set your role model and then have a constant conversation like what is that you wanted to learn. It could be something like, okay, what you are lagging. So the 9-box grid. So as the students, you need to know what is your core strength, and of course you need to build on your strength. At the same time, work on your weaknesses. So what is that I'm lagging? Am I shy in maybe networking? Am I shy in maybe public speaking? Am I a poor communicator? Identify your the areas where you are lagging, and then identify the true leader or the you need to approach where, like, okay, we used to have a lot of forums. As a leader, we used to mentor not only for our own employees. I love and I used to do a lot of mentoring session for the students, of course for the community through various forums. If at all you need any support through your college, I'm ready to spend some time. I'm not saying like I'm open for the all the day, but I'm ready to mentor you. And you need to identify your mentor and then have a structured program or the plan in place to have a regular dialogues and understand the coaching. It doesn't mean that like, okay, yes, those are the olden days. If you have coach, that means you are lagging something. No, you can have a lifetime coach who can, of course the coach is not going to tell you like, okay, if you wanted to maybe take a next VP role, the coach is not, he or she is not going to tell you like, okay, this is what you have to take some training, this is what you need to work on. The coach will not tell you the clear cut maybe the inputs. It's all like, okay, the coach will probe you, what is inherent qualities what you have, and then he or she will probe you and then mold you to take you to the next step. So please identify your mentor and have a constant dialogue. And the NHRD forum, I think you touched upon, right? The NHRD, or no, not ISCD. By this time, like, okay, everybody will be knowing, okay, enroll yourself in the membership. That will give you a lot of insight about hearing from different leaders. And those days in 90s, I don't have those kind of any forum or seminar other than like hearing from our own lecturers, the classroom sessions. But now you are in a IT driven world. So enroll in membership, be it the ISTD or NHRD, because you are all HR profession. And believe me, like, okay, you are going to get a lot of insight from different leaders, because it's again like if you hear from one particular group, you may get the same inputs. But if you hear from a different diversified group, you may get a lot of inputs. So be a member of the relevant forum. I'm not saying enroll yourself in all forums and then jack of all and master of none. It will not help you. Identify what is it, understand like, okay, what is that you are going to learn from through this, the forums or the membership, and then be focused. And as Mr. Nakkeeran says, there are like, okay, know, show, go. Very, the key message to the students, yes, you should know, and then you should show how you are doing it, and then go for the next step. With this, I'll conclude my speech. Thank you all. Thanks, MSW School for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks a lot. Most of what she said harnessed upon a major key line, that be the change that you want to see for yourself. So in neuroscience, there is something called as Paleolithic principle. Most of our brain developed when we were hunters and gatherers, right? So at that point in time, physical competence, like strength, agility, in terms of physical flexibility, and then all these power-centric narratives that was built around the system that we followed, civilizations that followed, put men at a certain level of advantage. But till the industrial age, that was more relevant. But right now, we are moved to an information and more delocalized environment, where what we saw as the standpoints of what makes women less able leaders are now the key points that we are looking in managers. For example, we have moved away from employee engagement to people experience. We have moved away from very structured learning to an intuitive learning approach. So these are all standpoints, cultural, genetic predispositions that women by themselves have in their genetic code. So that makes them more, better and far more able leaders for tomorrow. And that can be only portrayed when you take up the chance, and then when you start showing or being the change that you want to see in the world. It reminds me of a very good recent interview that I saw of Indra Nooyi. Okay, I think it might be an old recording, where she says that she was announced as the CEO of PepsiCo, and then while coming back, okay, her mom said that, get curd when you come. And then she came back to the house and said, see, I have been promoted as a CEO, and then you're saying get curd and come. And then her mom said, you might be the CEO of PepsiCo, but for this house, you are a mom, you are a daughter-in-law. I see several layers of problems with that interview, because that is not exactly what we want our women to portray to the next generation of women. We don't want to be seen as, irrespective of whatever position I hold at my office, I am still a daughter-in-law, I am still a daughter, I am still the house manager. No, that is something really they're trying to portray. I'm not saying Indra Nooyi is wrong. I'm just saying that that is how I felt when I saw that. And if you're a leader at a certain position, like what Lakshmi did, she said, I want to be the change, so I was the change, and that is what changed my portfolio completely. So it is very important that women as leaders, please ensure, don't let anyone second guess you. Be very confident, and then ensure that you be the change that you want. With that said, we have covered predominantly manufacturing and consulting and the women in leadership role. Now let's move on to the major chunk where most of the population wants to be, and that is IT, right? So what are the basic things that the IT industry is doing in order to inculcate leadership capabilities, and what are they fostering, what are they nourishing, and what are the best practices that they have? Over to Mr. Satish.
Thanks, Sriram. Yeah, let me first clear the air or the misnomer that you quoted, the sentence that you said most of them want to be in IT, which is not the case, by the way. It is so, okay. The number of engineering seats, guys, let me put it that way. I know it's a beast you're talking about. It's gone down significantly, right? IT used to be the industry which picks up mechanical engineers, civil engineers, anybody who could talk, I'm an engineer, ENG, you're the right guy, you come in, right? But it's changed, guys. Let me that's why we're saying we know where the heat is coming from right now. It's all about the boom that you see, the up and down, right? We've hit the turf right now. Okay, coming back to the serious talk, right? Yeah. I know we are between lunch and you guys, or maybe the break and you guys. I'll keep a little simple and shorter, because Nakkeeran covered almost everything from a functionality process standpoint, and Lakshmi spoke about leadership from a inherent quality perspective, right? So extrinsic, intrinsic, all covered, and Sriram summed up everything. So I don't know if I have a role to play at all, but let me see what I can do to kind of keep you guys engaged, right? Lakshmi started about saying, why don't one of you guys comprehend what you heard since morning? So I'm going to go back to the same pace, but I'm not going to ask you guys to talk about it. But let me pick the essence of it, right? Whatever Nakkeeran spoke, whatever Lakshmi spoke, whatever Sriram gave in tidbits of the 3 boxes, if you look at it, you guys are already there, right? I'm not sure if you guys noticed, there is one guy sitting right extreme to my side. He knows a little bit of it. He also goes along with it to orchestrate this entire event. That is leadership in true essence. And let's talk about it. So it's nothing new. It is not that you need to go read all these books, graduate out of top B schools, T schools, to imbibe on a leadership journey. It is inherent in my view, right? Leadership is an art. It's a skill you can build through your daily walk of life, right? I talk about this guy who's sitting there, right? So he suddenly calls someone and says, you know what, stop shooting in from there, shoot from this side, right? And he called up and said, then he picked up and said, the mic is get the mic lowered or said stuff. So that's the way he shows and guides his own team, right? They're all peers, they're all from the same badge, but that's the way he shows his leadership quality, right? He turns back, he figures out if the YouTube channel is running live or not. He kind of keeps an eye on that as well. So if you look at it, that in a sense what you heard from the speakers, and that's what you're going to hear from me as well, guys. So not that leadership is something in neuroscience in nature or quantum physics in nature, or Greek or Latin in nature, right? It is all about your walk of life. How do you bring in leadership from an inherent perspective? And that's something that we need to relate to it much more, right? If you put a cap to it saying, I need to grow to a VP, I need to grow to a GM, I need to grow to there to become a leadership, guys, you're getting it totally wrong, right? Dr. K and I go a long way. Kamesh and I go a long way as well, right? I knew K for the last 12 years or so when we first did the ISDD program way back when I used to work in HCL, right? So we still connect, and that is leadership recall. It is about how you connect with people, how do you bring in the human part of the human resources, guys. And that's why we're really happy about this institute. This is, I think, my 4th or 5th session with this group, maybe in a different group of different programs, right? But if you look at it, the human part of it is something very, very critical, guys. As a leader, you need to bring in the human part to the HR perspective. Today, it is all looked at as a resource. We are trying to change that, and today we are trying to rename it. The nomenclature is changing by saying, can we call them talent, right? Can we call them people and culture? So you're starting to see different nuances coming in, right? In certain organizations, they call them as chief gardener. Guys, wacky. Why? Because you heard Nakkeeran talk about know, show, and go. A gardener is someone who nurtures the talent, right? Who shows and grows as well and goes along with them as well, right? So all that I'm saying is, it is all about inherent in terms of how do you grow your leadership from within, right? Yes, all these environmental perspective, right? Your MSSW workshops that you guys are going through, or the books that was referred to, or the videos that you will go through, all these will add on to those qualities. It'll bring a different perspective or dimension to it. Yeah. So that's a premise. Now, having said that, I know VUCA has been spoken about for so many years and ages, right? My simple philosophy to VUCA is, how do you build or rather beat VUCA with VUCA, right? Volatility is something that we spoke about. How volatile the industry is today. You talk about the BC and AC, before COVID and after COVID, right? Volatility, right? How do you build or break your business volatility, right? How do you break that out? Fairly simple, like what Nakkeeran said. As long as you have clear vision, right? If your organization, if you help build a clear vision, not just for organization, even for yourself, where is it that you want to go tomorrow? Forget about next 5 years, 10 years, guys. Gone are the days where the loyalties, the advocacies are prevailing. Because the business priorities change, so as our individual experiences as well, right? So how do you beat V with V? The volatility can be killed with clear vision. Or if you break it down into much more simpler lexical to it, right? Forget about vision, visibility. Are you able to visualize where you want to go? I think that will kill the volatility context of what next, right? Why am I bringing this? 50% of what we are doing today from an occupation perspective, guys, can be automated. Nakkeeran spoke about AI, ML, robotics, and so on and so forth, right? We hail from that industry where we automate all of those stuff. Yeah, we're trying to kind of inhumanize what humans are doing to a larger extent. But if you look at it, it's the humans who are putting those brains out there. Maybe next session, Kamesh should talk about the consulting purview and so on and so forth, right? That is where it is. So in a simple term, beat V with V, beat your volatility with clear vision, or in other words, visibility, or your own inherent vision that you need to build out, right? Uncertainty, how do you build uncertainty, right? To me, though there is a leader or a program orchestrator sitting here, it is about the uniformity that he or she brings in. It is about how you reciprocate. Is it about how you comprehend to your fellow colleagues? We spoke about collaboration as well, right? That is a uniformity that you're talking about. In a corporate world today, gone are the days where we talk about corporate office will decide and put it down, hub and spoke, gone. It is about what your regional offices wants, which the corporate office is trying to build right now. Legacy, how do you break the legacy? Break the rules. I'm sure another book, right, for you guys to go read that through, right? How do you break the rules? It is all jinx. In fact, I was telling Sriram as well, right? All of these are gone in the corporate world, presenting a bouquet, a table, a chair. Today we're talking about high stool setup. We bought that, right? 12 years back, when I was instrumental in putting that through for Dr. K and Vijay, another friend of ours, I said, let's not do this chair table types, right? Just make it wacky. We thought about next gen 12 years back by then, right? When we were Gen X, Gen Ys, and we said, let's bring in bar stools. People question me saying, bar stools on a stage where you talk about leadership conclave and ISTD. I said, yeah, let's just break it, right? And that is what it is. So how do you break and get into a new normal, guys? That's about bringing in uniformity with everybody, right? How do you make sure as a leader, how do you make sure with everybody in any decision that you make? It has to be collective leadership, and that's why we talk about uniformity. It shouldn't be that, I dictate, you execute. That's gone. So that's how you kill you with a U. Complexity, right? How do you kill complexity, right? So much has been spoken about what's going to happen to the job world. So many HR passwords happening every year. What's going to happen? Is there going to be an HR job, right? Kamesh and I used to have last 7-8 years ex-cognizant. We used to fist fight, right? Saying, you HR guys will come and do this. How will you expect me as a business to execute it? Right? You say bell curve. I have all consultants with me. I can't put them into a bottom 5% and all of those stuff. Right? They will leave and go, right? But how do you work around? And we were the best pals, right? Even today, right? So when Shri called up and said, we need someone from a consulting practice, the first recall that I had was Kamesh. In spite of all the loggerheads we used to have. And that is what we call about, how do you kill the complexity with clear, precise communication? No matter what differences, indifferences we had, different viewpoints that we had, our communication was pretty straight, simple, and straightforward. Guys, that is where you build C, or you beat C with a C. Complexity can be killed with clear and articulate communication. Be clear in terms of what you wanted to communicate, right? And just go put forward, right? Ambiguity. How do you beat ambiguity with another A? As a leader, as long as you assert yourself, assertion is very, very critical, right? Stand by decision. Today, leaders are reluctant to take decisions and say, this is what we would like to do together, right? Because they don't want to take ownership and accountability. In most cases, that is very, very evident, right? Why? Because they can fall back and say, no, this decision was taken by the strategy team. This decision was taken by the marketing team, and hence it failed. This decision was taken by HR, and hence we have attrition, right? But how can you as a leader be much more assertive, right? You need to own your decisions. Guys, in my simple term, this is how you beat VUCA with VUCA. Have a clear vision or visibility, right? Bring in uniformity in your work culture, right? Have precise and clear communication, and be assertive in terms of anything that you're doing cohesively, right? Simple as that, guys. I mean, that's leadership broken down to the VUCA, and I think because I've been told by Shri that I need to talk something around the theme, so I thought I will let something talk about the theme as well, right? Before I get into my own grey hair gyan, right? That is what it is, guys. Let's be simple about it. And now getting into the gyan part of it, right, guys? But I'll see how I can make it much more interactive and laughable as well, so that you take one or two essence of it. out of it. Getting back to my previous statement that I made, 50% of what we are doing today, guys, by the time you all pass out of your MSSW, half of what you would be envisioning and doing would have been automated, right? Half of what Nakkeeran or Lakshmi or Sriram and I are doing today, right, will get automated and will be moved on. Today, the employee engagement that Sriram spoken about is through a cobot, is through a chatbot, right? It is all through application, right? You get to see irritating HR email saying, have you logged into this application to check your wellness score? That's how it's perceived at, but in a corporate world. But if you look at it inherently, now employees have started to realize it is my wellness. If the wellness question is much more, my outcome and capacity or contribution is much better, right? So today, people are now realizing the importance of this fraternity. Kamesh thought I'll table that. Yeah, just kidding, right? So the point that I'm trying to drive to is that, guys, whatever that you're doing, let's put the human aspect to it, right? Now, 50% is a huge sum. We're talking about 375 million occupation, not talking about jobs, not talking about people. Occupation is going to drastically change by 2025, right? We talk about, I don't want to name the companies, right? You open an app, you want to travel from one location to another location, you book a cab, right? There are multiple such cab providers, automated cab providers, right? Now, there are so many cab drivers who are plying those cabs for you. And you've already seen a company who've gotten into autonomous cars. What is autonomous cars? Use geospatial, GPS and other stuff, and you don't need a driver to drive a car anymore. You have cars, you have trucks, they've all been piloted and they're all successful. In fact, they bring in all the AI, ML that we're talking about, right? The car would detect the speed of the other object or another cab or a bike that's going on, 360 view, and maintain the distance, brake accordingly or honk accordingly, whatever that it is, right? It is all inbuilt. If that's going to come in, look at the number of job losses or occupation losses that you can look at. What's going to happen to these cab drivers that are plying their cabs today? As leaders, what are we supposed to do? Do we have a plan? Could be one rudimentary example, guys, right? So that is what we call as technology disruption that's happening significantly. So when I say leadership has to be conscious in terms of what's happening, technology disruption is the key that leadership should be privy of in terms of what's happening. Everybody talks about digital. It is not about a clock that you see there getting into digital clock. It's not that, right? It's not as simple as that, right? Lakshmi spoke about organization moving and transitioning into SAP HANA, from a manual ledger based into SAP HANA driven human capital systems and P&L and finance and so on and so forth. That is the shift you're talking about. So what's going to happen to so many accountants, ICWI, cost accountants, work accountants, all of these guys, if they're all not going to have a ledger to sit and maintain and draft and showcase to the CXOs or the CFOs, what's going to happen? If a Tally, if a HANA today has gotten into e-commerce side, right? I hope you guys know whom I'm talking about. Why should they grow inorganically? It doesn't make any sense, right? A chemical manufacturing industry or an industrialist getting into e-commerce retail business. Why would he or she want to do it, right? So that's what I'm saying. The business is also getting disrupted big time. Yeah, so it's no more organic growth. If someone manufactures, let's say, bikes, they don't grow on bikes anymore. They get into electric vehicle, they get into autonomous vehicle, they get into something which is totally different from this entire mobility or automobile industry at all, right? Guys, that is inorganic growth. So leadership is also getting disrupted as long as the business is getting disrupted as well. So do we have the capability, do we have our HR fraternity or leaders are capable of, or do they have the capacity and capability to change to the agile environment of inorganic growth that's happening or impacting the market today? Yeah, that's the second one. The third disruption is about operating disruptions. So Nakkeeran spoke about agility, right? In IT parlance, it is prevalent. We call it as a scrum team, right? Gone are the days where it's about waterfall and agile and whatever, right? Leave away the names. It's fairly simple. A group of 8 to 9 people coming in for a specific customer problem or a business problem. They resolve it. They hand over it, put it on a run engine mode, and then they move on and take another business problem. That is what we call as an agile team or a scrum team, right? But different walks of people come in. There will be a developer, there could be a tester, there would be an architect would come and say, no, the design has to be like this. The application should look like this. So the backend should look like this. Front end should look like this, whatever, right? So that is the next disruption that's happening. I wouldn't say leader less, right? I would, I've been a proponent of employee first, customer second, right? With Vineet Nair. I've been part of Vineet's book launch, and I was one of the ambassadors. Vineet Nair used to head HCL way back, right? So I used to go do sessions along with him as well in terms of why employee first, customer next. Okay, in that book we've called out saying inverting the leadership pyramid or destroying the leadership office. Everything should be self-driven. We spoke about that as well. Self-resilient, fail fast, nimble, and learning. So in our generation, guys, I'm not getting there. I'm not getting into Kamesh also. Kamesh is a different generation already. In our generation, right? Kamesh is much younger, so that's what I meant, right? So in our generation, we've been said, you have to get first rank or second rank, right? And I'm an outlier. That means I don't get ranks at all, right? Let me be candid. For me, HR is accidental as well. So I'm an accidental HR guy, right? I did my commerce. I did my CCNA, CCNP. I'm a Windows architect by profession. I said to heck with corporate job. I quit that. I started dance schools, right? For 4 to 5 years, I was teaching dance, right? Jazz ballet, whatever that it is. I was running event management company. I'm an illusionist, magician, mentalist, and that's what the introduction said, a long list, right? So I did that for a living. I'm a ventriloquist by profession as well, right? So I did that for a living. I said, yeah, that is what it is for 4 years. Then I said, okay, I've had enough of it. Let me bring in all these learning and put them into corporate life again. And I joined a ITES firm, and I led their company as well for a while, right? I was in Mumbai for about 4 years. This is from 99 to 2003, 2004. I've set up their entire facility from scratch. So that's when I learned infrastructure. It is all situational leadership. Let me put it from that perspective, right? If I want to annotate this into a bookish model, situational leadership. How do you bring in the I have no idea about infrastructure, right? From the first brick built, right, to the first director that we hired in Mumbai. And that's how I started my career, saying, oh, this is how building is constructed. Per square feet cost is so much, per seating is this, and per core volume is this, and what is a P&L? And that's where I learned it. This is way back in 2001, 2002, right? Guys, everything, like I said, it is about how you bring in your perspective of leadership. So whatever that you do, it's all about inherent leadership, guys. I strongly believe in that. And nothing Greek or Latin, whatever that you do, you walk through that, that's learning and that's leadership to me. Yeah. So sorry, I'm getting into some sentimental stuff out there. So let's come back here, right? So that's where we are traversing, right? If you look at it, from where we were, and that is where we're moving towards. Yeah. So in a quick nutshell, if 50% is going to change, are we ready for that change? Right, guys? 56.9 million. That's what studies suggest. 56.9 million in India will have to do a different job by 2025. It's a huge population we are looking at. Huge population looking at. So what are we going to do, right? Like I said, I'll give a positive spin to the job loss that I'm talking about, right? The misnomer is IT is going to take jobs off, which is not to be the case. IT is going to elevate the valued job that you're going to do, right? You will not be sitting and doing tactical transactional job anymore. You will only start doing mind-wrecking, innovative job. We spoke about design thinking. That's another thing, right? Yesterday we used to talk about Kaizen. Dr. K left at the right moment, right? Kaizen, Gemba Kaizen, waste management. We talk about Six Sigma, lean management. Look at the number of names that are coming in. But what do all of these do? It eliminates wastage. It will clear out your processes. It will impact your outcome. Today's world, using design thinking, that's what you're trying to do. How do you get into faster outcome model? Whether you use any of the legacy principle, I shouldn't be saying legacy because Lakshmi adopts still Six Sigma in factory mode, industrial mode, and so on and so forth, right? But Lean Sigma is prevalent in any manufacturing setup even today. When you get into line setup, and that is what it is, right? The reason why I'm quoting all of these are, guys, in whatever that you do, be aware in terms of what's happening around you, right? Like I said, leadership is not about what you learn through book. It is about what you practice. It is about what you walk through. You fall, you raise and say, next time I will not fall that way. We spoke about that. One example was given, right? How not to do something is something that you will learn. I'm sure tonight he's going to go back home and with his team going to think through, you know what? Why should the panelist call me and ask for cordless mic? There was only one cordless mic. He's going to be twice shy tomorrow. He will have 3 mics here ready without anybody asking, as an example, right? Why should someone keep adjusting that mic? So he will keep that mic properly with the volume control check done much before the program started. Quoting as an example, right? So I'm saying that is how you learn, and that is leadership to us, right? And guys, it's for all of us, and that's how you learn. When I was doing my event management, right, you name a heartthrob, because I see a lot of women here. I had worked with Maddie. I had worked with everybody that you think about, right? As an illusionist, I had launched Airtel Magic Card, SIM card. This was way back. I'm not even sure if you guys would have heard about this brand called Airtel Magic Card, right? I launched the Magic Airtel card for Chennai by making Maddie appear on stage with Magically. That's the way that we launched, right? We think through it. It is all about, right? Someone can just come in and tear open, cut the ribbon, like giving a bouquet and saying this is how Airtel Magic SIM is launched. We can do it, but we think wacky. We need to think differently, and that is where design thinking is going to help you. Guys, sorry, I'm trying to put in some anecdotal value so that you'll be able to relate to it. So if you think of Maddie, you'll think of design thinking, right? So all that I'm saying is any walk of your life that you go through, guys, it is about leadership lessons learned, right? Today, 7 habits, 8th habit. Who moved my cheese? I moved your cheese. Somebody else would move the cheese. Okay? There are different versions to it, right? There are different versions to the assessment centers, right? We've done 9 box, 10 boxes, 3 boxes. We've done all of those. But end of the day, if you don't create the leadership potential in an organization, none of the models are going to work, right? So let me go back, right? So that is what we're talking about, leadership as a quality. Quickly to sum it up, guys, go back and talk about, browse about Dave Ulrich's leadership code, right? Whatever that we spoke about, everything sinks in exactly on what Dave Ulrich spoke about, right? It is about simple, very, very simple English. What is leadership? Strategize, right? Leadership is about strategic input coming in. How do you strategize? Which is what we spoke about. Innovate and create your moonshot or create your vision from a VUCA. That is the first thing that Dave spoke about. The what part of it, which is strategize. Second, executionist as a leader, which is how part of it in my view, right? Sorry, I'm trying to honor, because there are different versions, right? The 3 boxes, the Dave Ulrich's model, Peter Senge's model, anything that you put, everything talks about this in a different shape or form or lexical, right? The what from leadership, the how of leadership, how do you execute it? Right? You need to have a definitive plan, right? You need to have uniformity, collaboration, and so on and so forth. The third one is about how do you build talent right now? For you to run a CAT or a Murugappa group or an Mphasis or a Cogni or a Gemba as a consulting firm, today do I have a talent to run this through? Right? How do we build that talent today? Right? Which is I would say where. The fourth one is about when. When I say when, we're talking about next gen leadership, right? How do we build that ecosystem and sustainability? Leadership is a journey. You'll have to keep building sustainability. All of us spoke about diversity, right? Today, the context has changed. Today, it is all about meritocracy. Today, most of our women leaders are coming and saying, why do you want us to say, I will fast track you in 3 years when men folks are getting a fast track in 1 year or 2 years, right? There is competing, they're competing and saying, let's do meritocracy. We will compete with men as well, right? Do not isolate us. There's a different version that's coming in today. So we've changed our coin. We said, let's do inclusivity. Let's not just say diversity. We'll say inclusivity and sustainability. So that is the mantra that we are thriving through as well. Yeah. So that's the next point that I thought I will table out, right? And that, if you look at Dave Ulrich's code again, how do you build your next gen leadership, which is develop human capital management. That's the fourth one that he talks about. The fifth one is about, for you to do all of these as a leader, how do you build your own capability, knowledge, and potential and performance and other stuff? Individual IDP is what we spoke about, right? How do you build your capability as a leader? So that's the fifth part that Dave talks about, right? Guys, this is about Dave, right? I know I've copied enough of his patent, but But the point that I'm trying to say is, if you were to be a full stack HR, he's going to laugh it out, right? Because in IT we talk about full stack engineer, full stack developer, and so on. But today, full stack HR, again, guys, a tidbit, go do Google. Josh Person has written very well about what is full stack HR. It is not only knowing HR, guys. Gone are the days if you're going to say, I'm an HR person, you're not going to survive. She gave examples about line HR moving into run factory, becoming a factory head. That is the expectation today the business leaders have on us, right? You should be able to talk, walk, run, or know, show, and go business parlance. So HR is one component of your leadership, right? I used to probably say in my previous organization that I used to be a chapter lead for a bank. Though I was heading HR for one of the largest industry vertical, I used to be a chapter lead. In the agile world, it's called as a chapter, tribes, squad, chapter, and all of those stuff, right? I used to be a chapter lead. Though I daunted the head of heading HR, I was still doing a chapter lead for that bank. That means I'm responsible for building capability for that bank. Yeah, that's the role that you used to play. So being in HR doesn't mean that you grow as a VP, GM, whatever that we spoke about, right? That's just unidimensional, guys. You have to be multidimensional. Jack of all trade, king of none, or generalization from specialization, all of these get there, right? If you want to be holistic from a leadership standpoint, don't restrict yourself only to HR. MSSW paves the foundation for you. You guys get to see the social part of it. Apply your social learning into business learning as well. You have to be holistic around it, right? So to do all of these, just the three simple C's that I've coined myself before I pass it on to Sriram. I know I've just at lunch, right? How can you be curious? How can you be creative? And how can you be collaborative? Guys, if you find an answer for these three, right? It's nothing is going to be Greek and Latin, right? Be curious. Go question yourself as to why should I give a bouquet? Sorry, guys, I'm just putting as an example, right? Why should I have a seating arrangement like this with a table with water? Is this traditional, non-traditional? Be curious. Question the status quo. Doesn't mean that you just go back and say, hey, your business is wrong. I'm not saying that. Don't go blatant. I'm saying start questioning the status quo. If you feel that it could be done differently, go question. Don't hold it, right? Second, be creative. Applicability of your Pareto principles, 80-20, cause and effect, fishbone, design thinking, Six Sigma, lean. Guys, be creative in whatever you're doing. One size doesn't fit all anymore, right? So you need to kind of keep innovating with different tools, whatever templates that you have. Be creative. Third, most importantly, for you to become or nurture a leader in your organization, or if you want to become a leader, you have to be collaborative. Stop taking unilateral decisions. You have to be collaborative. You need to have a supply chain function, a marketing function, a finance function, an HR function. Bring in all the functions, an operation function, delivery function together. Take collective decisions. You have to collaborate for any decisions. The fourth, there is no C, but own up your own decisions, right? 3 C's, inculcate and own up your decisions, guys. I know I've kind of taken much longer, but this is the little bit of gray hair that we have. We thought we will table out to you guys. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Sriram.
Wonderful. Actually, more than half of what I was planning for my finishing blow has been very beautifully executed and much better rendered by you, and I'm more than happy to to close off this entire panel discussion with a simple idea that I had initially before closing this off. You talked about combating VUCA with VUCA, right? So I had a similar standpoint where if VUCA is the hiccup or the heartburn, competed with soda, right? When you're volatile, then eventually it is being spontaneous that is going to help. And if it is going to be uncertainty, then it is be divested investments. I mean, how omnidirectional are you in terms of your interest is going to help you a lot. And then if it is going to be complexity, right, then how divested you are in your interest. And in a very demystifying the myths are very important. And A, which is ambiguity, has to be very well tampered with using agility and assertiveness. And that was my standpoint remedy. I was planning for soda for VUCA, and you countered VUCA with VUCA. That's a wonderful way to finish it off. And then Dave Aldrich again, I was planning to talk about organizational, internal, external capability building, result-based stakeholder management, and that is again covered by you. So eventually my role is beautifully summed by you, and I'm more than happy to do this. And then with this, what is the key takeaway, right? So more than just sticking to all the narratives that we have propounded as practices, it is again very important for you to understand your narratives, your turf, and how are you going to fit yourself into this new age of leadership, where we talked about AI, ML, and all those things. Are they going to replace you? No, that point of singularity is far, far away in terms of machine learning. So we are still not there yet. So if machine is going to learn something, then who is going to teach? It's going to be us. So are we future ready for it? Are we agile enough? Are we assertive enough to have this monotony-driven economy or work out of your offices and create something new, build a new capability? And as leaders, are we transparent? How are we getting to the loyalty aspect? And how are we catering to the gender parity? And how are we going to build 3 Cs? How are we going to stay relevant by being curious? How are we going to build capabilities, commitment? So these are pertinent questions that this panel leaves you with. And again, the Zen principle, we are not giving you solutions. We are leaving it to you for you to decide and decode so that you build your own turf upon which your leadership springboards from. With that said, I conclude the session. It was wonderful speaking to all 3 of you. It was great, and I had a very good learning session for myself, and I hope the same was for you guys also. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, panelists, for enlightening the students, for being future ready, and for encouraging us to explore the unknown. Let's head to break the UKA with UKA. Hope you all got a clear insights about leadership codes. And now let's move on to the question answer session.
Have any relevant questions for any relevant person? You can name them and then you can ask the question.
Actually, my question is in 2 parts. So the first part is to ma'am. Ma'am, from your experience, please tell us as a woman how you have overcome all the gender stereotypes in your companies and how you've broken the vicious cycle of dealing with chauvinist leaders or other gender discriminative practices in your company. And then the second part, which is to all the panelists, is that since Sir mentioned Indra Nooyi, I'm going to take her as an example. So when Indra Nooyi was the CEO of PepsiCo for 12 years, the PepsiCo had an 80% growth rate. Her predecessor, who was there for 24 years, could only make it for 70%. So with that being said, only 38 out of the 500 Fortune 500 companies have female CEOs. So when are we going to see female CEOs over there? And why do you all think, I'm so sorry to stereotype here, but as men, HRs, the women are not able to come up in there, and with their exponential, amazing contributions to the world and to their companies, why it's not being achieved?
I'm not an HR guy, so
or management and leaders.
Even me too. Me too. So I'll put a blame on.
You have to be careful when you say me too also.
Yeah, of course, I'm not going to say that it's a male dominated and you don't have, competition. And so to answer your question, yes, you need to be innovative, as Satish said. How you are going to be a creative and, giving something a different perspective. That's what differentiate and then take you to the next step. And you need to take extra steps than a stereotype, men, because you are a woman. Still, we have not achieved that percentage, as you said, like lot of, CEO, Indrani. We know only very few, Mallika, Srinivasan. Because as I opened my forum, yes, we see a lot of freshers. And it is up to us. Again, I'll say, we said like once we get married, no, I have a family to take care, so I don't want to. Nobody, says like management, hey, you got married, so we are not going to, promote you. It's not the company, it's you. You need to, decide, yes, I can balance my work-life balance. So, and you need to take extra steps. And of course, it's like you'll have challenges. I'll share my own experience when I've taken a production role. I'm very conscious that yes, I'm going to have hurdles. Be prepared for, like, you're not going to have any support system. So I'll just tell you, I made up my mind that, like, yes, my manager is not going to support, my operators are not going, but still, how do I perform and then, contribute for the business? So that's how, I have taken that attitude. So your attitude determines your altitudes. And of course, when I started my career, it's all very unionized culture. Now, Nakkeeran sir is not there. He talked about IDP. We have got IDP for operators also. It's all performance for the pay. But in those days, in 90s, it's all highly unionized culture, and the operators used to say, hey, you are, you've just completed the college, and then my experience is your age. You're coming and then demanding work? No. I've given the land, I'm not supposed to work, and they'll come and then sit. It's not about a specific company. It's about, most of the companies, like, that's how the blue collars are in those days. But now, they have to work, they have to be efficient. They should know, as Satish said, like IT, how do they, maybe a man should know how to operate the CNC machine. Otherwise, they'll not know more in the, manufacturing. So that is the, maybe you need to understand, and maybe with a constant, communication, and then, like, okay, clarity, and then courageous. I keep, challenging people, like, yes, I accept what you said. Yes, you are the landlord, and you know better than me. I'm going to learn. Okay, you're going to teach me. So, like, that's how, like, okay, with the communication and then constant, never give up. That's what, I practice, I've experienced. And when it comes for the, maybe the next role, see, you should have, like, yes, I can deliver whatever. So, be it a project management or be it with the IT. And so I've seen a diversified culture. So I've worked in the, maybe truck division, then in an engine division, then on an electrical component manufacturing company. Then it comes to the consumer durable. So you need to have that, willpower. Yes, I can learn, and I'll be very agile and quick in learning. Then you can, maybe position yourself, whichever industry, irrespective, no matter whatever the industry, whatever the culture. Like, okay, I moved from south to north. By the way, I don't know Hindi, but I've learned it. So age is not the matter. And as long as, you have the courage and boldness, and you need to balance your family also. Of course, I had a lot of, challenges. I'm very clear when I moved with my son, 4-year son, my mother said, like, look, I'm not going to come and support you. It may be like on call, even if you're touring for, like, I used to go a lot of tours when I was, the planted role. Maybe at least 3-4 trips, not less than 2 weeks time. So my mother said, like, only once I can, rest all time you have to manage, or your son should be equipped. In a way, more than me, molded, my son is he is equipped, to live without parents also. Like, okay, he is self-driven, and he is, he's on his own now. He's just 13 years old, but he could be, on his own, be it now for the online classes also. He's attending, like, from 4 years onwards, he's on his own, and he knows, like, okay, this is how life is. You have to accept whatever challenges come. And then I don't have even a full-time maid to, take care of me. I put my son in the creche and make sure that, maybe they give whatever the priority or the importance what the child should. And mostly on the weekends, it's I used to spend time with my kid. But when it comes for the, be it like my husband, he's based on Hyderabad, and I was in maybe a different location. My son, he has his vacation. So the one thing, like, okay, which I've sacrificed is, we never, maybe gone for a holiday trip, all these things. We have planned in 2020, but of course, in the pandemic, that is the only time we thought, okay, this April, he is in 7th, he has holiday. My husband also came for the vacation, but of course, the nature has oil. But it doesn't mean that like, okay, it's better, you know, maybe you have a better, you know, exciting future in the near future. That's what I used to take it. I take every day is like, okay, happy moment, and then enjoy and be a, you know, funful person.
That's a wonderful insight. Again, that half of her narrative answers your second question. See, she didn't answer it directly, though. A second question I'm talking about, but what her narrative itself, where she talks about a lot of sacrifice that she has to make. She had to be the change in order to portray. Now, what has happened is Indra Nui at that point in time, she was a new wave, right? And people are generally afraid of new, not because it is new, it is because what they fear it would replace. Right, so we talked about the Paleolithic principle, where we are brain developed during hunters and gatherers, so we are very accustomed to uncertain times, right? So when that happens, there is a power narrative that follows, right? And that power narrative was restricted to a certain gender, right? So when that happens, when there is a new kind of environment where the ancient capabilities, the competencies, the physical prowess stays nowhere relevant, right? This is a new turf altogether. So the acceptance ratio in a society where they had a huge amount of social capital, right, needed something like a reservation, right? Even the blind opponents of reservations don't really understand this is not against a certain sect. Similarly, the great opponents of gender reservation don't understand that this is not against a certain gender. It is about the social capital that they have been devoid of for a very long time, and it is not about equality, it is about equity, right? So if we understand, and we as a generation, and this generation that is seated here, I believe that we have, whether we like it or not, this is somewhere socio-culturally imbibed into us. So we are far more inclusive compared to our previous generation. And with that, with time and again, with new waves of feminism, right, this would eventually happen. And this change is about to happen. And we see a lot of C-suite people compared to the previous 80s and 90s and 2000s also. So this arithmetic progression that we see is likely to progress, right? And it is not time to we go back and say why not, why didn't. So it is more like, box 3, like what are we creating for the future? So that is more important. So we don't have to dwell in the past, we have to learn from it and then quickly move to the next stage.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
I have one question to Mr. Nakkeeran. As I was talking about the application of design thinking. Yeah. Now with the concept of other approaches to leadership, there's always been a technique, a set of thought of schools, many thought of schools which have been discussed. But I, as a student, if I am connecting with a expert in the field, the concept of design thinking has only been spoken as a concept. It has never been actually spoken as a technique which has been implemented in the at the top leadership, or has it been discussed with us as a raw one-to-one session and addressing about different aspects of leadership as such in it. So how inclusive has been the concept of design thinking? First, one of my points which has to be answered is application of design thinking in leadership, and secondly, how inclusive it has been with respect to all other functions of a business in the application of design thinking in leadership. So these are my 2 questions to you.
Great question. So I want to give here example at 2 levels. Application of design thinking in designing a leadership development program itself. So what we did in TI, the Murugappa group, people have been following the media. You know that TI traditionally was into manufacture of bicycles, that is at least the consumer facing end. And we are into precision tube products where we manufacture the two-wheeler automotive, two-wheeler fork, okay, handlebars. 3 years back, there was a major sweep and we got into new areas. And when we say new areas, non-traditional, at least from the Murugappa group point of view. So we got into electrical vehicles, we got into optical lenses. So where do we get this kind of leaders? And we always believe that 70% has to be internal. If not 70, 90%, that was the kind of mandate given to. So how do we scout for such kind of leadership? And how do we design a development program for them? So that was the challenge phase before. as I was heading the learning center then, so I said like I had to do a stakeholder mapping, find out who are my stakeholders. Okay, and stakeholders not necessarily only within the framework, even outside, the kind of customers who would like to deal in. So we did a kind of dipstick and we identified what kind of leadership touch points which our current leaders make with the customers, vendors, what difference would it make? So input came in from that stage. If you see in design thinking, the entire thing starts from the customer experience. So for us, each one of them was an experience. So we had to do extensive study on that and collect those inputs. Then internally, we spoke to those leaders also. What kind of dilemmas, challenges they face, what would really help them to really grow in this journey, what kind of hand-holding support we get. So there are so much of inputs. And this was done through a series of workshops. We did interviews, focus group discussions, all this. So this input became the raw material for designing the entire program. That was on the design aspect. Now coming to the implementation part of it. Okay, we have leaders on board. This is all there. We have a fantastic program in place. How do we really see that all the parts of the machinery are oil? How does it really work? So apart from the 360-degree feedback input which we had, there are a lot of touch points which had. So we had to call the internal, as I said earlier, the service recipient. If I were the leader of a team, who are all the recipients? So their feedback. So we had to call them, and we were also looking at this entire program as a part of high performance culture building. So as a OD internship, addenda to it. So we had all those inputs. So this is the time where we had to constantly message to the leadership, the leaders, that accepting your vulnerability is the greatest strength. Today, most of the time we feel I would not like to expose my vulnerability. The blind area in your Johari window is the major stumbling block. So the moment we could tell them that how it's really going to help them, that was the major part. In any change, 80% of the change is the unfreeze part of it. How do you make that individual or a system realize your current ways won't help you reach your destination? In any project, my co-panelists also will agree here, 80% of the time of the change management in making people realize your current belief system will not help you. You have to necessarily give up. He was talking in box 2 also. That's selectively giving up. That is a major challenge. So at an individual level, when we had to work on each leaders, in spite of having coaches and counselors or mentors, we had to tell them. And there are some hard nuts to crack. There are 50% success story to start with. But the moment they realize that by giving up, by bringing a modification behavior, there's a lot more to gain. So the design thinking concept, so we had to create, because there are a lot of personas created in the journey also, if you know the design thinking process. So we had to take, hey, this is the kind of leaders. So it's not only applicable to a product, even from designing a program and even in designing the and measuring the implementation, we had. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
And the most beautiful thing about design thinking, it's a very non-linear approach. And the center of design is empathy, right? So it is more like what you see, you derive, and then you perfect it better, rather than you have a statement from which you arrive at a end process. So it is it's reverse engineering actually.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a nice touch to it.
Thank you so much, panelists and the moderator, for the amazing session. Among so many appreciations for the way you guys conducted the panel, we have one question from Mr. Vibhakar Vishnu. He asked if it is the responsibility of the employers to train their peers in the new technology, or should it be the employees who should volunteer for that, or is it a two-way responsibility?
I thought you'd asked and answered as well. Everything is covered in that question. It's the endeavor of the employer to make sure that we upskill, cross-skill employees, right? I don't even want to bring in employer. Like I said, it's all about talent. It is about how we sustain growth together as an organization. So a long-winded answer is, it's both, right? An employer should showcase direction, take some affirmative action saying, these are the ecosystem that I can build. And an employee's responsibility to jump in and say, you know what, now that you've built in, let me jump in and take away how much ever I wanted to. So it's both, in my view. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. That's all from the technical team.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Dominic, sir, to felicitate Mr. Sriram with a memento.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Professor Ms. Priya Doris to felicitate Mr. Satish Rajarathnam with the memento.
Now I request Professor Jeshlin sir to felicitate Mr. Nakkeeran Thangiah with a moment.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Professor Damon Queen to felicitate Ms. Lakshmi Umapathy with the memento.
Now I call upon Ms. Devasini to propose the vote of thanks.
To everyone who have helped us in making this event a resounding success. I, on behalf of PG Department of Social Work Shift 2 and Pegasus Student Forum, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to the honorable delegates who have blessed us with their presence and took out valuable time from your busy schedules. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation to Mr. Sriram R for moderating this session wonderfully. I would like to extend my generous thanks to the three panelists of this session, Mr. Satish Rajarathnam, Mr.Nakkeeran Thangiah, and Ms. Lakshmi Umapathy. We have been the opportunity to listen to this session today. The way they explained the topic, Cracking Leadership Code, is exemplary and was indeed thought-provoking. Thank you, sirs and madam. And thank you all for your cordial cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Debajani, and thank you for all the panelists here. So we'll be going for a short 5 minutes digital break. The second panelist are already here. So in just 5 minutes, we'll be starting off with the second panel. Thank you.